Hey, hello, people. We're back.
Good
Go ahead,
afternoon.
Vinay.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Two Tired Teachers. I'm Vinay.
And I'm Rumi.
And we're here with another, off the cuff conversation about what's going on in the world of education. So, our goal today is we're just going to have a conversation about the reopening of school. Take it away.
Why me? Okay. Reopening schools.
Can we just start with what the CDC says first?
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's start with that because everything we're gonna say is basically gonna be, yeah.
Okay. Official.
Right.
I suppose that for the people that are watching us, by now they know that when we say those things and we don't say anything else, you will see it in my face. What I think about it, but so the CDC guidelines are pretty much before the big spike that we have right now. Now let's be clear, we are right now in a state that it's a hotspot. Our state, Texas, it's one of the biggest hotspots. We are passing over New York right now. So,
and let us also say that we're also in a state where our state board of education
smile,
will not give any guidelines other than children don't have to wear masks. That's the last thing I've heard from our state board of education. But let me throw this caveat in, just because I just cannot let it fly.
Okay, I have one more that I cannot let fly.
Even though they have said nothing other than kids don't have to wear masks, the Texas State Legislature has put in plexiglass in the room where they meet between each of the legislatures to make sure that they are safe. Okay, go right ahead.
So the other thing is, and it's actually on the official page, our Texas Education Agency will work remotely until January.
However, as far as the school districts in Texas, as far as I know at this point, and again, that's my disclaimer, as far as I know at this point, I'm not a principal, I'm not a superintendent. So for the information that I have at this point, we're going in the building.
Okay. One more official from the state, even though there's no indications of how it's going to be done, what are the specifics about what happens if we have an outbreak in schools. We do know, because it was official information, that we are going to have the state assessment.
For sure. Can't let that go. We got to have that state test because that's important.
75 million important.
While the whole world is going crazy, or at least the whole United States, this whole country is going crazy because they feel like people don't know history or understand social studies, but we're going to have that test.
And there is no budget to the side for a personal protective gear for teachers.
Yeah.
But the state test will be in place.
Right. Exactly.
Can I just move away like this? And okay.
So we're in Texas. We're actually in the same city.
Mm-hmm.
However, we're in different districts. Within our city, there are how many districts?
Just the city? I think 11 or 12.
Okay. So within
the city of Houston,
Yeah,
We
within
are.
the city, there's about 11 or 12 districts. So she's in a different district this year. She's going back to the district where she came from. And I'm in the same district. So in my district, what we have heard officially at this time is that we will be offering the hybrid model, which is what they're slinging around on the news, calling it the hybrid model, which means parents will have the opportunity to either choose to send their students to the building or to do online services. However, on the news as of this morning, which I didn't actually get to see it, I just heard the byline. They were saying that the district that I am in is going to be talking to the governor or the state to see if they can get funds for more technology, which kind of makes me feel like they're probably thinking we may not actually get the opportunity to go in the building because, as she said in the beginning, we're in the hot spot. So I know you've seen national news and they're talking about Texas and Florida and Arizona and other states. Well, we, as she said, are one of those areas where it has gotten really bad. So we're thinking we're probably not going to have the opportunity to start in the building, which is going to be something altogether incredulous. Beginning the year online, but we don't know. And I think for me, that's the bigger of the problems. We don't know. We don't know. We're not getting anything. They're not telling us anything. So those of you that are starting really, really soon, my heart goes out to you because I just read the article today where Florida's made the decision that they're definitely starting in person on August 24th. So I have all the feels for you right now. What are you thinking? Go ahead and say it. I can see it on your face. Say it.
I'm going to say it straightforward. Once again, and even though we had this part of learning at home, and we heard a lot of parents and people saying, yeah, teachers have to be rewarded, and that was amazing. And we said that who knows how many times. We're back to nobody's asking the teachers. And once again, the ones that actually know what is going on in the schools and the ones that actually have idea how that is going to be worked out and the logistic is the teachers. Zero attention to that. So now in my school district, what we know, there was a email sent to parents and teachers. I'm going to say straightforward, teachers, about what the preference is. And it was a very interesting questions. The ones that is like, how do I answer this one? But the results of that, what is it? I don't know, the answers of all of this have not been publicly posted anywhere. And the district is saying that we are going back. The one thing that we know for sure is there is going to be a different start time and ending time of the day because of bus transportation. And that's pretty much it. Know how exactly it's going to work. In the email that we received, there was kind of 3 different or 4 different options. I don't remember. But which one was the one that was chosen, I can't tell you. There is no official, at least I have not heard about anything that they are asking for funds for more technology. No idea how we're going to manage the common areas, how we're going to, we know that masks will not be required at all. There is no protective gear as of right now. That I'm not saying that that cannot change. It could, but it is what it is. And that's pretty much it. Once again, nobody knows exactly.
So I think at the end of the day, what we're trying to get across is, especially to parents, because I really feel for parents because they don't know any more than we know. And that's the part I think that I want parents to understand. If there's a parent watching, we don't know any more than you know, which you would assume that because we actually are the teachers, we might have a little bit more insight, but we don't. And I understand that there are parents that have to work, and, you know, sending the kids to school is the best scenario for them. What I would hate to happen is we would start, and then within the first 2 weeks of school, they turn around and tell us, okay, we have to go back home. I would hate that for parents. I hate it for myself. I hate it for the kids. I hate it for all of that. But we're just in a place of unknown right now. So according to the CDC, they have a little flow chart. They kind of condensed it and made a little synopsis of what they feel like needs to happen before you can 100% open. And, you know, the first step was, do you have a way to track to see if everybody that comes into the building is COVID free? And I'm looking just at that part. That's the very first thing. You know, you have to track temperatures. You've got to track, have they been exposed? Is anybody at the house been exposed? All those things. If you don't have that part in place, you can't move towards the other parts. So for any district to just say, oh, we're absolutely going back, my first question, especially as a parent, would be, do you have a way to make sure that you're not allowing this stuff into the building? Because if you allow it into the building, that's an automatically everybody's going to go back home. That's an automatic. So I know I've heard a conversation about, I heard some teacher conversation about, so say somebody in Rumi's class actually ends up having COVID. Oh, I wasn't supposed to say it, sorry. Having it.
Yeah, that's okay.
Then do we quarantine just that kid? Do we quarantine the whole class? Do we have to quarantine that whole part of the building? You know, there's a lot of different little parts that have to work together in order to make it successful. So it's not as cut and dried as we all would want it to be. Like, this is the way it's going to happen, because sicknesses don't work that way.
No,
They just don't work that way.
especially viruses did not work that way at all.
Right.
So,
So, you know, there's no cut and dry way. And I think that has a lot of us, you know, with high anxiety, because we don't know, you know, and some of us are going to walk into some situations that are not going to be ideal. And, you know, then you have those people that say, well, you know, if it's such a big problem for you, stay home. Everybody does not have the opportunity or the wherewithal to be able to just say, okay, I quit. I would be one of those persons. I can't just up and say, oh, I'm just not going back. I quit.
mm-hmm.
Everybody can't do that. So I don't think it's fair to retort to a person, if you're not comfortable with it, then stay home. Because we're all working class people.
There's no choice.
Right. Most of us are working class people. We have to work.
My thing since the beginning of all of this started is because this is the most used answer when we as a teacher say, hey, what about us? And the most used answer to that question is, well, if you can, then stay home. Well, that's not the option for majority of teachers. So you have, and I look at the stats, I went to the U.S. Department of Education to look at. So here is the interesting part. 47% of teachers in United States are single parent household. So if that teacher doesn't go to work, that household loses every kind of economic support. 63% of the teachers in United States are the ones that actually provide the health insurance for their family. So staying at home, and God forbid you need the health insurance, it's another way of, that's not an option. So majority of the time when it says, well, if you are high risk, for example, okay, well, stay at home. Well, I don't have the choice of that. I mean, so when we go through all of this and we're talking, do we understand that the economy needs to open? Absolutely, we're part of the economy. We know perfectly well that it needs to happen. But my point is that, and I said it in the beginning, nobody's asking us. And most probably you will find very possible scenarios coming out of the teachers to redo how the schools are working, that from everybody else, that includes the American Association of Pediatrics. I'm sorry, when was the last time that you went to a school and saw how many kids are in the classroom?
Yeah.
It does not work that way, and we're not in the, and my, I was talking to a friend this morning, and as every single one of us, she was telling me, you know what, I do understand that it has to happen. In some point we have to go. But right now when we say, well, we have to live with that, there's a lot of teachers with the question of going back to the classroom. It's not that we have to live with that, but how long do I have to live? Because it's a big deal, and it's completely different stories, and we talked a little bit about that. It's not that we don't want to go back to school. We're teachers.
Right.
That's where we want to be. And interestingly now, when we were put in the situation and we talked about that, we as the teachers, we did not ask anybody to pay our internet account. We did everything from home. We went forward, and because majority of the districts do not have those, we paid from our pocket, surprise, surprise, for online tools and everything, so we can provide that. We are not against doing it. But when it comes to listen to us, we're not ready. Now, we're on top of being in a hotspot, we are in the county with most cases.
Right.
On
right.
top of everything.
And I am in the zip code in the county that has the most cases.
I mean,
how about that?
And then we get the information in yesterday that came to, oh, look, the strain that we have here, it's a mutated one. It's a highly infectious. But we are going back. Yeah. And my point of all of this is, if you just stop and listen to what we're telling you, because at the end of the day, it's most probably we have the solution, or we can work around that because we know what's going on in the classrooms every single day. Plus, you have to understand, and I say you as the public, you have to understand that we are standing in the position of, what do I choose? Going to work to keep with my kids who I know need me, or I choose not to save the life of somebody that it's immunodeficient in my home and it's my loved one, you know, and probably end up living on the street because I cannot provide.
So let's flip it for a minute.
Big problem.
What would be your perfect scenario?
Perfect scenario, do not start. Right now, do not start in the classroom. I assume it's going to be a little bit more difficult in connecting, first of all, the parents with the teacher, but there is a way of doing it. We can still do open house outside and provide the parents with information how and where to connect with the teachers. By now, every single district has an online platform. That's the reality. The online platforms are used. And once the platform is there and it starts working, we will connect with the kids and figure out what to do. The kids that don't have the technology, yes, I'm going straight for it. The Department of Education should provide the money for more technology for the kids, because that's not even if we have a school or not, that's a quality issue.
Yeah.
Straightforward. And we already know that because we already went through it.
Right. That's true.
And then
yeah,
you have to figure out which kids can stay home. And I'm saying which kids by age, because for me, if you have a high school kid that it's impossible for them to stay home and learn at home, you have a problem, because guess what they're going to do in college? So if you have that, then the school, the physical building of the high school can open for elementary school kids that need, you know, somebody to be with them, and we can disperse all of them around. Here's another thing that nobody has been saying or thinking, and it was a friend of mine that it's a nurse that just said, I can't believe that they're not saying that. Why not installing, because if you're a teacher, you know, we're in the same air conditioning in the whole school. But if you install medical grade filters in each classroom, that closes the possibility of that new mutated strain that it's supposed to be airborne going from classroom to classroom. So, I mean, those are just ideas, and probably you'll find every single teacher having some kind of ideas. And if somebody talks to us, instead of, are we going back where the education agency will be remote to January at least?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if they feel like they have to be remote until January, I mean, it seems like they would think the same thing for us. But like you said, the pediatricians and the psychologists, and even I as a teacher, I understand relationship is important, and face-to-face helps you to create that relationship. But at what cost do you want to establish a relationship? You know, we want to have a relationship, but don't get me wrong, and I know that probably sounded not cool, but we all want to have relationships with our students. That's the very first thing that you do at the beginning of the year. Mm-hmm. You establish the relationship with your class. And we know that is a must in order to to be able to teach anybody, whether it be a child or an adult. You have to have a relationship with them. But at what cost, I think, is the question. Do we want to try to figure out other ways that we can establish that relationship, or do we want to put everybody in harm's way to establish a relationship? And that's that for some of us, that is more important to think about life rather than a high five.
If you are not healthy, then the social relationships are not important.
Yeah.
First of all, you have to be healthy so you can build relation, because if you're in the hospital, what kind of relationship you're building?
I think that this is just one of those situations where I don't think anybody has the best answer. But I think if we had a conversation, we could probably come up with some scenarios that everybody can live with. And I think our biggest issue is that teachers are not brought to the table to even be a part of the conversation. I don't even, at this point, I don't even know if parents are being brought to the table to have the conversation. I don't know.
Well, as I said, in our case, in my case, the district did send that email out with the
I
question.
mean, other than saying, do you want to do remote or do you want to send your kid? To me, that's not a conversation. That's not the conversation I'm talking about. I mean, the sit down at the table and what do you feel would be the best thing for everybody? That's the conversation I'm talking about, not whether you want your kid to stay home or come into the building. Because we already know if you're working class, and I consider myself working class, you need daycare and all that stuff. That stuff is expensive. And if I can send that kid to school and save that money from that daycare, you're going to school, so I can go to work. And that's simple. I get that 100%. But you know, we still have to say, is that the right thing for everybody? And what I think is unfortunate in our case, in our city, well, the state, period. Like we said, we have 11 districts just in this city. It's 11, 12, it probably maybe more or less, whatever. Every district is doing something different. Every district is doing their own thing because the state won't make a decision. So it's just left up to every district to do so. I'm in a district across the street from her. Mm-hmm. And they're doing this, whereas we're doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So like her district chose the extended year, right?
Yes.
So you start when?
We, as a teachers, we're starting on August 8th. The kids are starting August 17th.
So they start like a whole 2 weeks,
mm-hmm.
almost 3 weeks before we start. And then we're using our regular calendar. What we did in our district was they added 15 minutes to our day. So they extended our day by 15 minutes. That way, if we have to be out for at least 8 days, we're covered. But if we have to go longer than 8 days, then we have to go the whole month of June. That's what they decided to do in our district. In another district, it's a whole nother thing. So none of us are, you know, doing the same thing, and that's crazy.
It's
so think about a teacher who works in this district, but their children go to the school in this district.
Yes,
that's a headache all by itself.
Yes, yes, and I agree with you. This is because there is no plan from the top. No plan for the top. And now I want to be clear. We have been one of the first ones that we said, well, we need to figure out this thing because we know parents need to go to work.
Right.
We need to go to work.
Right.
That easy. I will have to go to work, you know, and we already know that there is a back thing. Because the way that the school year ended last school year, okay, we know that we're the teachers. We are absolutely conscious about this thing. But when you don't have any kind of, from the top, let's see, can we all work together to see what it is and how it is and who is going in and who is not going in? What's the possibility of making smaller classes? And because there's possibility. Now, we're still talking about, the academic growth. And the academic growth will not be any kind of issue if you don't have a standardized test from the state.
Right. Yeah.
The kids will catch up. The kids will catch up. That's undeniable. They will, if they're taught correctly, and we use what the kids are doing right now, like YouTube and like videos, and like, the kids will catch up. That's not a big deal. We can use those as a tools. But once again, we're not doing it together. We cannot even agree we're using masks or not.
Yes. Yeah.
And sometimes I'm sitting and I'm listening to all of these pros and against the mask. It's a virus. Does not care who you are, what you believe or nothing. It's a biological thing. you know, we're not getting on that one. This makes me nervous. And I'm telling you, this makes me nervous because in my case, there is no option for me to stay home. Even if I wanted to, there's no option for me. But in the same time, I'm going in and I know that there is inevitable for me to get it. It's inevitable. Unless we have by some kind of miracle by August a vaccine, and even with that, you see how it's going to be. No vaccine, yes vaccine, no vaccine, yes vaccine. So the point is, this is a new virus. And if we continue in the old ways, we're not going to get on the other side in a good shape.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. So I guess as we're coming to the conclusion of this rant.
Yes. And we were not.
Coming to the conclusion. I will say this, teachers, either way your district decides to go, my advice or would be, and this is for myself as well, to prepare either way.
Yes.
Know what you're gonna do either way. So if you end up having to start online, then know what you're gonna do. How am I gonna start thinking about it now? How am I gonna establish these relationships? How am I gonna set this up? What's gonna be my routines? So forth and so on. I know you have to wait for guidance from your district specifically or your building specifically as to the what, whens, and wheres and all that kind of stuff. But we really do, because we're coming down that stretch of the highway where we really need to start thinking about, okay, so how am I going to do this? If I'm going to start online and I'm not going to have the opportunity to be face to face to create this relationship, what am I going to do? How am I going to do it? Because the relationship piece is important, because that's how you get the buy-in. Mm-hmm. Especially if we have to start online. For those of you that had difficulty getting some students that you had seen from August up until we were sent home, that never showed up online, or they were kind of wishy-washy about it, and you had a relationship with them. Imagine how this is going to be when you've never physically been able to be in that child's presence. How are you going to do that? So we really need to start thinking about, okay, so if we do have to start online, what am I going to do? So I'm giving us all some homework. So because we really got to sit down. I know there's a district not in this state that starts, I think they started this week.
Yeah.
I think they started this week. You know, if you haven't thought about it, you know, and you have to start next week, you're going to be in for a, I don't know, a shock or whatever. But I would say, let's start to think about either scenario. If we're going to start in the building, they say no mask, how are you going to deal with that? It's time for us to do some soul searching, because I have to sit down and write down some things too about how I feel about it. What am I going to do? So if I have to start online, how is that going to look? If I have to walk into that building and they tell me that I cannot wear a mask, what am I going to do? If we walk in the building and they have the plexiglass, because this is what I've heard from my district in my building, since we don't have desks, we have tables for 4 kids at a table. And what I've heard is they're contemplating doing the whole plexiglass thing where every kid sits behind the plexiglass in their own little space. How am I going to handle that? Because we're used to having routines where the students run everything. So if we have to be in a socially distancing classroom and kids have to be behind this plexiglass, I can't do my normal routines where each table goes to get their own materials and they go do this and they, you know, where I put all that stuff on kids, giving them the responsibility of those things. I have to rethink the whole structure of the classroom, because that may not be possible. So if that's the case, where are they going to keep their supplies? How are we going to distribute things? All of those things, like she said, if we've got to clean our room ever so often, where are these kids going to go? I know that's a building issue, but we still have to be thinking about how are we going to get them there? how are we going to even line up? We can't do the you stand, everybody get their feet in a block kind of thing. If you have tiles on the floor, we used to say, make sure your feet are in a tile. But now we have to be spaced apart. How is all this stuff going to happen? So we really have to take in mind the saying that we have to be good with only worrying about the things that we can control. I can only control what's in my little circle. So I can start to think about how am I going to function if it's this way, or how am I going to function if it's this way? And we really need to sit down and start making a list and checking it twice to kind of come to grips with what's about to happen. Now, I know that's easier said than done.
No,
I know that.
No, but it's better start preparing to that, and I agree with you either way. And if it, the way that it's going right now with us, okay, that infectious rate, it's not going to come down on time to opening the schools. Yeah. So most probably will be on, the beginning will be online. I don't know, just like anybody, everybody else as a teacher in the state. But the other thing that I will say of those rethinking and be prepared of, okay, how I'm going to communicate with my kids remotely, because you need to communicate. Okay, and suddenly it's not that big of an option just using my phone, especially if you are a high school teacher and you have to call 140 kids. It's impossible, physically impossible. But there has to be something in place of, okay, what I'm using, what the district is approving. Can I propose something else? That is there some way that I can have communication with the parents where it does not cost me? Or that part should be then rethinking how the classroom works. Okay, and I agree with you, starting with, well, there's no shared materials anymore. So am I doing bags, individual bags with manipulatives? If I'm teaching science, I know I'm not doing experiments in groups anymore because it's impossible. It's not going to happen this way. And the other thing is rethinking the way that we have been teaching now, because we talked 2 or 3 days ago, I don't remember. Small groups are out of question right now. So if you teach in a workshop setting, this is not happening now. It's straightforward not happening. Now imagine for the pre-K teachers that they don't have centers anymore to send the kids to play, or they should be rethought again, and at least have some kind of plan. Okay, what do we do with pencils? What are we going to do with glues? You know, all of these things to have in place. And when the building as a teachers come together, have an idea what are you going to propose, instead of just saying, no, that's not. My biggest concern, believe it or not, my biggest concern is how we're going to do it with the restrooms. Seriously. How we're going to do it, that includes kids and teachers' restroom. Because if I have to go to the restroom, and you know, as a teacher, that it's like, first of all, somebody needs to come to, so you can get out of the classroom. Plus, you have to go, hurry, 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 hurry. But now every time that you go, you have to disinfect after yourself.
Yeah.
How does the kids are going to do that? All of these little things need to be kind of have an idea, talk to other teachers and write it down. So once we go back, because if you ask me, I think the way that the building decides how it's going to manage those things will be definitely the safe way to go. If the building and everybody's on board with what it's doing, that building and those teachers will be safe.
Yeah. I don't know if we have that, we'll have that opportunity for every building to get together with their staff and say what is best for our building. I don't know if they'll give us that opportunity, but that would be like the best thing is for the entire staff to agree on one thing. And let me just say, pre-K through second grade teachers, I'm praying for you.
Well, I used to say that
that's going to be very difficult,
yes,
especially for all of the primary grades. I mean, for all grades, period, but especially the primary grades, who most of what they learn in the primary depends upon the physicality and the social aspect of everything. So, wow. This is going to be difficult, but this is the time for us to start thinking about it. You haven't thought about it before.
Yeah, I used to say that middle school teachers are my heroes. I'm right now pre-K teachers.
Oh, pre-K, yeah, the primary people are definitely my
those people are like, God bless you, people.
Yeah.
How are you going to manage that? It's beyond me.
So we're going to bring it to a close, and we may have to end up doing another one in the next week or two after we hear from our state governor, because he's supposed to be speaking and telling us some things on today, what I understand. So we might have to rant another time in the next couple of weeks as we get closer. We are hoping that you all are having these same conversations with your colleagues, and that at the end of the day, this all works out well for all of us, because we're all facing the same thing across this entire country. And this is new territory. It is absolutely new territory. Now, I want to give Rumi some props, because she has been working like a little champ, getting all of her virtual things together. And I'm so happy that we're friends, because I'm stealing every single one of them. And she's been doing an awesome, awesome job. So the rest of you that are out there doing that awesomeness, making your videos and getting your things together, I take my hat off to you. Send them my way. I appreciate it. Yeah. So we're going to go ahead and end it here, but you may hear from us again in a couple of weeks. And I know this was very random, and that's what we wanted it to be, because we're just talking out loud, because sometimes that's the best therapy. And since we can't get together and sit out in her backyard and really just shoot the breeze, as they say, this is the way that we're doing it, and we're sharing it with you. So as always, if you have any comments or any questions, go ahead and throw them down in, they told me it's down in the comments, or send us an email. And as always, be safe, be you. We'll see you again on Two Tired Teachers. Have a great day.
Bye, people.